Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of Knockout Analysis presented by Cron Media. I am your host, Ethan Chronister. This is your co-host, Mr. Whit Barnes, whichever way he is this time. I will be cosplaying this week as Marcin Tybura. And my good friend, Mr. Barnes here, will be the Baltic Gladiator himself.
The GOAT.
So we've got Confessional. We did not get to record the weekend of the Johnny Walker fight. We were in the process of doing it, and both of us lost internet. By the time either of us were able to film again, it was just too late. The fight started at 3 in the morning. So,
Indeed.
there would have been, we would have had the video uploaded at 8 p.m. Friday night. For all you clown car driving goobers, you probably would have been asleep by 9:30, and you would have waken up in the middle of the main card. So, there'd have been no point. We made an executive decision to not film it. So, here we are back again. We will, however, discuss the events that happened. In full Johnny Walker fashion, he won a fight that he definitely was not winning. Johnny Walker is a freak athlete. You can't take that from him. He's 6'6". He's very strong, very athletic. Could be an NFL tight end. I will stand on that. But Zhang Ming Yang, he was beating the shit out of him, and he got kicked too many times in the same spot. His leg buckled, and there's just nothing he could do. He's on the ground. He can't use his leg. Johnny Walker just sat on top of him and beat the hell out of him until the ref said that's enough. So that will be Zhang Ming Yang's first loss, I believe, in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
Not his first loss as a pro, but I believe his first loss in the UFC.
Indeed.
But I still have faith in Zhang Ming Yang. He did not lose that fight off of technical ability. He just lost that fight because he got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. That being said, there was not the... If Whit would like to elaborate any more on that card, he may.
I mean, Uran Saldi Baldiev is the GOAT. He's just the GOAT, man. Pulling out the Ezekiel choke, dude. On Nurgaje, man. Shout out to him, man. That's my guy right there. You know. It was a decent card, man. I was up at 3 in the morning watching it. You know. It was decently entertaining. Brian Ortega. I think it's over as it's possibly going to get for him. You know, I don't think he could have looked worse. You know, even after the weight cut, you know. Other than that, you know, Nurgaje in his UFC debut beat up Irishman Kiefer Crosby. Controversial, but I think he looked like the massive favorite that he was. And overall, decent card. Oh, we missed something, Cron. Rest in peace to Loner Kavanaugh, man.
Oh, facts. Rest in
Charles
peace to Loner Kavanaugh, and rest in peace to Michelle Pereira's bum-ass career.
Mm-hmm. Real tough scene.
Also, what else was I going to say here? Waldo Cortez Acosta was indeed derailed. I do not quite think that this is the end of his hype train, but he certainly has a lot of work to do if he's going to beat anybody inside the top 5 in the heavyweight division.
He has a chin made of titanium, is like something I can say about him.
He has an absolute chin. Marvin Vettori level chin, if you will.
Good trait to have a heavyweight.
That is 100% correct, because they throw some dynamite in their gloves in the heavyweight.
Indeed.
That being said, we will now move on into this week's festivities. UFC Fight Night in Paris, France. We're going to get right started with the very first matchup of the evening. We will have Shauna Mama B Bannon coming off of a win against Pooja Tomar in her last fight. She will be facing Sam Hughes with a 10-6 record. This one is going to be an interesting one. I think usually there's only two ways women's fights go. It's either a really quick finish or the ugliest fight you've ever seen for 15 minutes. So, I think we'll have one of those in this one. And I don't understand Mama B being the underdog here. I'm going to take her to defy the odds. I think she's going to win this fight by decision.
That's like Cron is the Mama B whisperer. I have a massive booger in my nose, so excuse me all. But, hold on. Alright. It didn't happen. We're not editing it out either.
No.
But
raw, unadulterated fun here.
But Cron is the Mama B whisperer, so he might be on to something, man. I mean, is it motherfucking son of a bitch. Alright, I'll do it in a second. But this is like one of those fights. It's like, this would be like an Apex prelim. No idea why it's in front of a crowd. You know, somehow Sam Hughes didn't get cut after starting off 0-3, but she's got a finish. She's got some wins over some very low-level competition, and it's just like, I don't agree with the line a whole lot. I don't think Sam Hughes should be a 3-1 favorite against anybody, especially based off of the level of competition that she's scraped by against. You know, Shauna Vannon, I don't think is all that great either. I think her record is slightly fraudulent. Not the greatest competition either. You know, the Pooja Tomar fight, she got absolutely rocked on the feet, and she was able to fluke out an armbar there. You know, the 2-1 is very deceiving. I don't think she should be as big as an underdog she is. You know, if you want to throw $20 on it, be my guest. I'm not gonna bet on it. I would not touch this fight with a 20-foot pole or any of my money. Even if I had $1 million, I wouldn't touch this fight with anything. But, you know, I get it. Sam Hughes, I think she's going to lay on her. I think she's going to get a 30-27 decision. And the Paris crowd, they're not going to be too happy. They're going to be saying some very nasty words in their native tongues over there.
Real nice people, the French are.
Indeed.
So that'll move us into our next fight. We have recently talked about Andreas Gustafsson facing off against Renat Fakhretdinov. Russian on Swedish crime here. Gustafsson was pretty impressive in his UFC debut. He had the fight that he made, ended up getting canceled. They tried to give him a new opponent. That one got canceled. And then he finally ended up getting a fight. He dominated that fight. This is going to be a clash here of wrestlers, I'm sure. I don't know much about Mr. Renat, but he's Russian, so that just automatically classifies him as a wrestler. And he has a 23-1-1 record, so he's probably pretty good. The odds on this one, they're pretty even. So I'm going to go with my gut here. Now I'm going to pick the Russian to win this fight by an ugly 29-28 decision.
Yeah, I think this fight's going to have a high pace to it, you know. The odds are kind of interesting for me. You know, I could see why it's even. I think there's value on Fakhretdinov, even though he had probably the most... Honestly, I wouldn't even say it's controversial. Everybody knows he lost that fight. Like, I think 30-27 Leal was the right scorecard. I was sitting there, and I picked Fakhretdinov to win. And I was like, damn, he just got 30-27 by a PFL guy making his debut in Carlos Leal, you know. But no, the judges at Abu Dhabi decided, Renat Fakhretdinov, you're not getting your second loss on us. And I've seen it, like, go far enough to where I've watched some other content this week, and people are listing him as 22-2. They're not registering that as a win for him. It's that it was that egregious. And as the competition has stepped up for Renat, he has gotten a little bit more shaky. You know, Andreas Gustafsson, nobody really picked him to win his last fight. He's entertaining. He's kind of a fan favorite. And he went out there and he beat the crap out of Chaos Williams, which was impressive, especially considering the odds. But and I think Renat's really good in the grappling. And I think that's Gustafson's biggest strength is getting in the clinch and landing big shots. And I don't think he's going to be able to do that against a seasoned grappler and a seasoned UFC veteran like Renat, who is going to push the pace. He's going to get some takedowns. And I think this is going to be a very grimy fight. There's not going to be a lot of exchanges in space, as Cron has already kind of touched on. I'm going to have to agree here. I think a 29-28 decision is for Fakardinov. I think that's very much in the realm of possibility.
That'll move us into the next one. I'm going to let Witt take this one.
Yeah, man, we got Bryce and Tavares. Tavares recently just re-signed with the UFC after his contract had expired. I believe if he wins this one, he is the all-time wins record holder for middleweights. I think he'll pass, I think it's Bisping or Silva, one of the two. He'll have the most wins all time in that division, which is very impressive. You know, he's been around for 14 years. He's one of those guys, you know, if you watch the sport, you know who he is. You know what he does. He's not super impressive anywhere. You know, if you beat Brad Vara's cool. If you lose to him, you probably lost a 29-28 close decision. You know, that's what he's done, especially within this decade, is just win out close decisions against guys that probably shouldn't be in the UFC, really. That and Gerald Meerschaert, who is a specialist in his own right. Ryzcek, his only fight, he lost to Peteria. The only fight in the UFC, that is. Peteria had a really weird draw in the UFC, a very weird run. I don't think he's in the promotion any longer. And that's not really a good look to lose to a guy that went 2-6 despite Peteria's steep level of competition. But for Ryzcek, I think it's now or never for him. You know, he's 35. He doesn't really have any momentum. He's facing a guy that's not super dangerous in Tavares. So if he's going to go out and make a statement and just let it all hang out, I think it's going to be in this fight. With that being said, give me Brad Tavares with 29-28 decision.
I think you hit the nail on the head here with Mr. Tavares. I mean, he's got 21 wins and he has 7 finishes. So take that for what you will. I think he gets finish number 8 here. Fuck you, dude. He's going to knock him out in the second round.
Okay.
That's going to move us into our next one. We have Sam Patterson, who looks like he has to take some boxing. I'm just going to put it to you that way. Facing off against Trey the Truth Waters with a 9-1 record.
Boxing, enjoy your Sam Patterson. Go on.
He has 13 wins and 12 finishes. I hope he doesn't watch this and sees me say that. I mean, I'm just commenting on your physique. I didn't say that you were a crackhead. I just said you look like one. He's 3-0 in his last 3 fights. Actually, how much do you weigh? You're a welterweight?
About 170, yeah.
Yeah,
These
I'll
are
beat
massive.
the fuck out of you. I hope you do see this. Anyways, Sam Patterson is going to win this fight by knockout. God, he's 6'3". The other dude's 6'5". Sam Patterson's going to win this fight. He's a knockout specialist, finishing specialist. If he doesn't win it by knockout in the second round, he's going to win it by submission in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Patterson is also in his neck of the woods out here in Western Europe, too. You know, he's definitely going to have the crowd behind him. You know, the people traveling from England. Trey Waters, you know, not super threatening. He does have an LFA champion, you know, but I'm not sure. I know LFA is legit, but sometimes you can fluke out a championship if certain guys move up to the UFC. So, take that for what you will. He didn't defend the belt in LFA. He has 2 decision wins over, pretty low-level guys in Ragoff and Quinlan. Fights that he wasn't able to finish. Fights that based off the numbers here, got outstruck in. I don't really remember a lot of either of these guys' fights. I think I remember Patterson finishing Borralho quite early. It was kind of surprising. I don't think I picked him, but he's getting it done, man. He's getting finishes, and he's beating the odds. I think in Europe, he's going to get Trey Waters out of there within the first 7 minutes or so. I don't see any reason why he can't in this battle of massive welterweights.
Yeah. Well, that'll move us on to our next one. We have Peter Dinklage facing off against Kai Fernandez. I mean, Harry Hardwick. Harry Houdini Hardwick is a very tough name. I just wish that his face didn't decide to Houdini away from the proportion size of his head. So, that being said, Mr. Houdini is got 7 finishes and 13 wins. He is making his UFC debut against Kyle Fernandez, who is not making his UFC debut, and also just beat the shit out of Guram Kutateladze in our very first or second card that we did. I believe that was enough to get Kutateladze out of the UFC.
Indeed.
Yeah. So he banished Kutateladze from the UFC. I like Harry Hardwick's record and the promotion that he's been in. He's been in a couple good ones, Cage Warriors and Bellator. That being said, I just don't know if he can match up with the UFC experience of Fernandez. I could see this fight going either way. I don't see it being a finish. I think Fernandez wins by 29-28.
Yeah, I don't really want to pick Fernandez, but I think that might end up where I'm going. Guram Kutateladze, he was kind of the hardcore fans' champion for a long period of time there, but he's gone. He started training with the Poirier brothers for his fight with Kyle, and they changed his stance, they changed his style, and he looked absolutely awful. I think anybody could have beaten him that day, which Kyle Fernandez, my personal opinion, 30-25 to Guram. Shout out to Guram for being tough and finishing the fight out. A lot of dudes would have found a way out of there and quit on the stool, but he's a tough dude. I gotta give him that respect. And Kyle Fernandez, I'm not gonna give him a whole lot of credit for it, truthfully. Muhammad Yahya got knocked down 6 times in his last fight, and he finished him. Well, you lose to Mark G. Casey, bro, out of his prime. It's just, I'm not as high on him as other people are. A lot of people since the Kutateladze fight have crowned him as this up-and-coming guy that is going to be ranked and all this stuff. I'm not really buying it. Had he have been facing... Who the hell is he supposed to fight for? Faris Ziam. Faris Ziam would have brutalized him in his motherland. Truthfully, it would have been a complete hornswoggling. He would have taken his school clothes, wrinkled his school clothes, taken his milk money, and it would have been probably performance of the night for Faris is where I was going to go with it. But Hardwick, short notice. I don't know if he has been training for a fight. He has multiple 5-round bouts in which he has trained for, and he has 2 of his last 3 fights finished. I don't really know what the technical decision is or the circumstances of that. I was not in the cut for that.
You're talking about Houdini's?
Yeah.
Tapology says decision technical clash of heads.
Oh, interessante. But yeah, I respect that he hasn't lost here in a few years. I do agree with the odds to a point of Fernandez does have more experience and he has been training. He has locked in. But damn. I do not want to pick Kyle Fernandez, bro. I'm going to pick him. 29-28 Fernandez, and a mostly stand-up fight where Hardwick isn't able to get Fernandez on the ground, and I don't think he's going to be able to find much of a rhythm on the feet. in this type of fight, but I do think he'll get another attempt at the UFC.
Alrighty, that'll bring us into the next one where we have Marcin Tybura, the number 7th ranked heavyweight fighter in the division, facing off against Ante Hilaire Delilah. This fight is pretty much dead even on the odds here. According to ESPN, they're both minus 110. 6'3", 250 for Tybura. 6'4", 242 for Ante. I mean, obviously the glaring thing is age for Tybura. He's 39, but his opponent's also 35. But this guy's making his UFC debut. Delia or Delija, whatever the hell it is. Don't need to know because he's not winning this fight, and he'll probably be banished from the UFC shortly after. Marcin Tybura wins this fight 29-28 decision.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a finish in this one, and I think Delija is getting finished. You know, this would have made more sense because I think 2022 or 2023, Delija was supposed to come over and fight Cyril Gane. Or that might have been, I don't know, it was a while ago. He was supposed to come over and fight Cyril Gane, but it didn't end up happening, and he ended up going back to the PFL, and it turned out good for him. You know, he's a PFL world champ in 2022. I think he's a little bit out of his prime, though. And, you know, just looking at the names here, I just know for a fact Marcin Tybura finishes a lot of these guys. These guys have been scheduled to fight each other 10 years ago, and Tybura ended up winning due to Delija breaking his leg and all that. But I will say, you know, people are looking at a way or a method for this fight. And his 6 losses, Delija has been finished in 5. So, just something to think about. I don't think he's going to be able to really keep up with Tybura in the grappling or his unorthodox striking. You know, he is a Polish warlord out here, and he is a fan favorite, at least a favorite of the good friends here at Cron Media. You know, finishing Jumanada Nemnes, not finishing Mick Parkin, but beating him in his motherland. You know, taking away those guys' zeros and making them one-loss fighters. I think he's going to get a finish in the second round. I think he's going to frustrate Delija. And, yeah, once again, Dana White and... what's his damn name, dude? Dana White and the Matchmakers. They are trying to make the PFL, Bellator look bad by giving these guys really tough matchups. I think Delija is going to get absolutely clobbered.
And that'll move us into our next one. We have a light heavyweight bout here. We have Omar Sy with an 11-1 record facing off against Brendanson Ribeiro. Both of these guys coming off of losses in their last fights. Omar Sy losing to Minifield by decision. Ribeiro losing his fight by knockout to Olajashik, I believe. Oh no, Mirzakhanov. My fault. The professional. So, what we have here is a immovable object facing an unstoppable force. Both fighters coming off of a loss. Someone has to win here unless they draw, which isn't going to happen. I think Ribeiro's a better fighter, but Omar Sy is in his homeland. So I give you this prediction. Brendanson Ribeiro needs to knock him out. If he doesn't knock him out, he'll lose by split decision because it's in Paris.
Yeah, I mean, this one, Brendanson Ribeiro has had his stock increased tenfold since the DR Nergaje incident. And it's not really looking like that. The wind's aging all too well with him being 0-2 in the UFC now, Nergaje. So both of these guys, as Cron mentioned, they had an opportunity to be ranked, and they both fell on their face. Omar Sy was a huge favorite against Minifield, and he was just not able to get past the power. You know, if you get into a lot of exchanges with Minifield, he will knock you out eventually if you poke the bear one too many times. And Ribeiro, he's long, he's athletic, he does have good power, but I think he can get hit. I think he's defensively lax on the ground. I think he defensively lacks on the feet. You know, has he earned his spot as a seasoned veteran? Absolutely, but I think Omar Sy, I think he's gonna mix it up. I think he knows he needs a finish here if he's gonna get another shot in the rankings anytime soon. I think both of these guys know that, but I do see this fight being incredibly low output. I don't see a lot of risks being taken by either guy considering the stakes. I think Omar Sy is gonna win 30-27.
Well, I need you to check your Snapchat real quick. I'm going to send you this video of what this next fight looks like on UFC.com.
Mm-hmm.
Let's wait for Witt's lifetime reaction to this.
What the hell? What the hell, dude?
So that's going to move us into our next one here. We
I don't
have
know who I'm picking.
William Gomez facing off against Robert Wachula, the Polish man facing another Frenchman. UFC.com really likes Wachula, apparently. So I have no choice. I'm forced to go with him. Wachula wins this fight by split decision.
Yeah, nobody's really picked him, and I was gonna pick him before I saw the beautiful image on ESPN. KSW champs have fared pretty well. They've always done very, very, very decent out here, and I have to put some respect on him. He did lose to Parnasse, the Frenchman. He did get knocked out in 2023, who I think is a guy that UFC needs to go get, but I think Parnasse said he does not care about fighting in the UFC. He wants money fights. He will fight as long for whoever's going to pay him the most. So hats off to him for going and getting his bag. I like Wachula, man. I think he's going to land more damage. But I didn't forget last time the UFC was in France. William Gomez fought Joe Anderson Brito. Joe Anderson Brito landed the more damaging strikes throughout the fight. It looked better. He didn't get the nod. He did not get the decision. I didn't agree with it. William Gomez just throws decent output, decent volume, and he doesn't put a lot of power. He's decently well-rounded in the grappling, but he's just not super impressive. If you're not beating a William Gomez, or if you're getting robbed by him, I think it's a red flag. I just don't get the hype with this guy. 14-3, I think, is a little bit fraudulent in a sense, especially with the Brito fight. And he's also had close fights with guys that are, for lack of a better term, jobbers. So I want to take Wachula here. This isn't a matchup that's too far out of his range, especially early on. The UFC has been giving guys that have came from other organizations, former champions from other organizations, then they have been trying to put them in the rankings. I like this one a little bit better. I'm going to take Wachula here. I think he's going to get a third-round finish.
William Gomez looks like the type of motherfucker to see you on the street and go, wee wee. That'll move us on to the next one. We have number 11 ranked Patricio Pitbull facing off against Losine Quieta. I would assume is how you say his name.
Something like that.
We have, I believe Quieta is coming from, what is it, Bellator? Is he a Bellator? Octagon. He is a champion from there. So this is kind of like the pot calling the kettle black. The Patricio Pitbull incident of his UFC debut coming out of Bellator was not great. So hopefully he can replicate that performance with Losine and make sure that Losine's debut is not great. I don't really care much for Patricio Pitbull. I have him as a huge favorite in this fight, in my opinion. I don't see what the line's all about here. Patricio Pitbull is going to finish this absolute bozo in the second round.
Yeah, I think this is a Bo Nickel, Rainer DeRitter level line in this one, dude. Like, I don't really understand it. The fights that I've seen with Keita, I think he's very aggressive. A lot of people have been calling him Belgian Ilya Taporia. I think he's exciting. And I think there's guys he can beat, but this is probably the worst stylistic matchup that the UFC could have given him. I think they did it on purpose. I think they want to promote Patricio a little bit more as the legend he is in mixed martial arts. And I think this is stylistically the best you could have given him. I think he's going to be able to get takedowns. And honestly, dude, I think he's going to get a second round knockout. I think he's going to find a counter punch. He sat down Dan Ige in the last fight. Was able to land a knockdown. And Dan Ige is a tough dude to crack. And he has power that translates. I think he's going to be the much better grappler, too. And even then, dude, even if this fight does go late, I think Cates is going to gas. I think he's going to try to do a little bit too much in this one. He's 27. He's fighting, once again, a legend of mixed martial arts. And his UFC debut in front of a crowd. I just think he's going to...
He's going to fold under that pressure, boy.
I think he's going to not really seize this moment here. Like, many people haven't been expecting him to do. I love the plus 185 on Pitbull if I was a gambling man. I think he's going to get the KO. I think he's finally going to get an interview in the octagon from the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Very good. I'm going to let you do the next one simply because you mentioned the guy before and I don't know anything about the guy making his debut.
Yeah, man. I mean, we got Skeletor, man, the all-tattoo team, and the Ultimate Fighting Championship. He's kind of been a stepping stone for other guys. Reese McKee has, losing Kazimierz Chimaev, getting absolutely clobbered in his first fight back in 2020, then losing to Alex Morono. He does have, Cage Warriors championship here, where he was able to get the strap and then defend it against a 43-year-old Jimmy Wallhead. For what it's worth, I don't love it. I don't love it too much. Most of the time, I'm really behind Cage Warriors, but I don't think he got the best competition. Reese McKee did in his time over there. And then he comes back, he loses to Angelusa, loses to Njokuani, who are decent fighters in their own right. And Daniel Frunze, man. Daniel Frunze, like, his two qualities as a fighter, and I picked him to win the fight because how was I going to pick 0-4 Reese McKee, Daniel Frunze, he's tough, and he has power. That's kind of how he won his Contender Series fight. And he just wasn't... He had a massive gash on his face at the end of that first round, and they called it. Not really going to argue too much with it either. It was one of the most gnarly cuts of this calendar year in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. But Reese McKee, I think he's flawed defensively. I think he has improved from his debut, but he's facing Axel Sola in his motherland, who is a multi-time Aries champion. And this guy's trained for 5-round fights, and he's got finishes in about 3 of his 4 championship fights, which is kind of impressive, I think all the competition he's faced is probably about as good as Reese McKee is. I think he's going to be better defensively on the feet. I think Reese McKee, he's going to gas out. He is tough, but I think he gasses out. I think he's there to get hit, like I've been saying. And I think he's going to get finished. I think he's going to get knocked out. TKO, the second round. Axel Sola puts on for his city. And the crowd goes mild.
I can't rock with it. As you can probably hear, my cat in the background is trying to claim the life of a box, and I'm not editing it out. I'm sorry. He really doesn't like that box. Anyways, I'm going to hold steadfast here and strong. I don't like when favorites are from other UFC debuts from other promotions, this fight is going to be won by Reese McKee, whether it be knockout or split decision. The fight's going to be won by Reese McKee simply because he's a UFC fighter and the other guy is not. That's the way that I look at this one. And that'll move us right into our next one. We're going to have Balaji Oki facing off against Mason Jones. I will spend exactly 10 seconds on this fight. Mason Jones is incredible. He's going to win this fight by knockout in the first round.
I mean, I see this fight being, I think it could be a fight of the night type of battle here. You know, I think this is very evenly matched. You know, Balaji Oki, very decent, not super crazy. Mason Jones just had his return to UFC in a great fight with Jeremy Stevens in Iowa.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Indeed. You know, Balaji does have a submission loss to the surging and rising Chris Duncan. Speaking of guys, stock skyrocketing, Chris Duncan has probably raised his higher than anybody else in sport other than maybe Josh Van, you know. But Balaji Oki got his win against Michael Aswell pretty recently. I got some respect for Michael Aswell. He's tough. He's well-rounded. You know, and Balaji Oki, he can do a little bit of everything as well. I think both these guys are not really going to worry about grappling a whole lot. I think they're very, very evenly matched, and I think they're going to look for a finish in this one, especially Mason Jones out here in Western Europe in his neck of the woods. I expect a knockout by him. I think it's going to be later in the fight. I'm going to say third round for it. Cron used to play for times like this, though. I promise you that.
Well.
He used to pray for times like this.
We meet again, Mr. Paul Craig. Let's be honest. Truthfully, in my opinion, maybe Witt's too, not sure what he thinks, Paul Craig was winning that first round, in my opinion, against Rodolfo Bellato. STD Bellato.
People forget, man.
He gets in the corner. He gets put on his back. He's trying to move in for a submission, as Paul Craig does. He goes into the fetal position and starts looking for a submission. And all of a sudden, it looks like Borralho's standing up. Not Borralho. Bellato is standing up. And he gets an absolute hornswoggling to the freaking chin from Paul Craig's tree trunk legs. And then puts on one of the better acting performances you'll ever see. Fight's called a no contest. There's no winner, no loser. Whatever. Paul Craig's ready to fight again. He gets Modestas Bukauskas, the Baltic Gladiator. On everything I love, Paul Craig should lose this fight. He is outmatched in striking. He's not many people are outmatching Paul Craig in grappling. Maybe wrestling, but actual jiu-jitsu grappling, it's very hard to outmatch Paul Craig. That being said, Bukauskas is the better striker. He's the better, probably, wrestler. He's not a better grappler, but he's just a better all-around UFC fighter. He's coming off of a win in his last fight. Everything that I love Paul Craig by a heel hook submission round one.
Yeah, I mean, he's always live, man. I can't even hate the pick, but I'm not gonna do it. I don't have the stones for such. You know, Modestas Bukauskas. Shout out the country of Lithuania. You know, beautiful place. Never been there, but I'm sure it's a beautiful place. Give Modestas Bukauskas a shot at the rankings. You know, I know his last fight to some was controversial, but he landed the more damaging shots, man. You know, I don't care that he got out-volumed every round. He was punching Jan Kutalaba straight in the jaw multiple times. And Jan Kutalaba's a tough guy, man.
Hey, remember when we picked Marvin Vittori 29-28 and he lost 30-27?
Yeah, that was another tough one. But Modestus, man, I think he's going to get a finish here. I think he's going to absolutely get a shot at somebody. I don't know that the UFC is going to give him, but he's going to get a shot in the rankings if he gets a finish. Paul Craig, he at least has, I think he got a 6-fight contract with the Mulatto incident, which I think could have been the best case scenario for him. Because if he got finished by Mulatto, who knows what the UFC was going to give him. He is in some ways a fan favorite. People love him, people hate him, people love to hate him. You know, he's Scottish, you know. You don't see that every day. And yeah, Mulatto, as Cron was talking about, just go watch that back. It's comical, dude.
We also bring it up every time. Magomed Ankalaev has lost one fight, and it was to Paul Craig.
Mm-hmm. Former champion, Jamal Hill, believe it or not.
Got knocked out by Paul Craig in a minute.
Former champion, Mauricio Shogun Rua.
Lost
finished
to
by Paul Craig. You know, this is what this guy does. So if you
loses
lose to
the jobbers, finishes champions.
Mm-hmm. Besides Bo Nickel, of course, the only exception. But, you know.
And that's still Bo Nickel's fault. He wouldn't go to the ground because he knew he wasn't better than Craig on the ground.
Mm-hmm. The world-class grappler. Bo Nickel was scared to go to the ground.
Fighter, Bo Nickel.
Mm-hmm. He has been scheduled for a fight at 322. I am incredibly ready for that hate watch. But I think Paul Craig is going to throw one of his naked body kicks that he likes to throw. And Modestus Bukauskas, I think he's going to counter it with a nasty straight punch. And I think he's going to send Paul Craig to the canvas. And he's going to get a walk-off KO. And he's going to shout out his motherland, Lithuania. He's going to shout out his training partner, Tom Aspinall. And he's going to call out somebody in the rankings.
Speaking of Lithuania and countries that are near war-torn countries, we have a war hero, apparently, not an American war hero, Benoit Saint Denis, the 13th ranked lightweight contender in the world, facing off against Mauricio Rufy. Mauricio Rufy is an absolute problem. I thought Mauricio Rufy was ranked.
He was, but the UFC people decided to take him out for whatever reason.
I'm just going to call it number 13 versus number 15 here for Mauricio Rufy. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this fight either. Saint Denis won his last fight in embarrassing fashion. He did not finish Kyle Prepolec in one round, who was coming off a short notice regional promotion fight. Before that, he lost to Patty Pimbley, easy money. Dan Hooker, easy money. Before that, he got knocked the fuck out by Dustin Poirier. And before that, he beat Frivola, who I believe Witt has already mentioned was what, 2-7?
No, that was Pateria.
Oh.
Yeah.
Either way, his last two fights were both losses, and he's not currently fighting. So, fuck that guy. Anyways, Benoit Saint Denis, he will be losing this fight to Mauricio Rufy. And the thing with Mauricio Rufy and his fighting nerd style is he could end this fight pretty much any way that he wanted to end it. He could make this guy look like a Family Guy character like he did to Bobby Green. He could make this guy regret every decision of his life and 30-27 decision him. Is this a 5-round co-main or a 3-round co-main?
I have a strong belief that it is a 3-round fight.
Okay. Yeah, so Mauricio Rufy wins this fight, I think, by knockout. But do not discredit Benoit Saint Denis. He does have some power. There is a chance he might catch Rufy with something because every once in a while, Rufy does go in a little wild and leaves his hands down. So, but I got Rufy by knockout second round.
Yeah. I mean, it's just funny, man. I said, Joe Rogan says people forget. I like to say people forget. And before Benoit Saint Denis beat Kyle Prepolec, the whole entire MMA community was shitting on him and calling him a scrub. Right? I was on record on this very podcast saying that this was the most lopsided fight of the year between Kyle Prepolec. And go watch that fight back, dude. It's awful. Kyle Prepolec, I don't know who taught him how to throw a punch, but it just looks very weird, dude.
Isn't he's getting another fight again?
He is scheduled again here. It might even be on here. Yeah, he's fighting Drew Dober. Oh, Drew Dober's gonna beat the shit out of him. Oh my gosh. Yeah. In Canada, he's never won in Canada too. Kyle Prepolec is 0-3 in Canada. He's about to be 0-4.
By the way.
His motherland. But Kyle Prepolec was also at a press conference for a pay-per-view as well. Keep that in mind. Never forget.
Isn't Leon Edwards 0-2 in London or in England?
Probably not all time. Definitely within this last two fights.
Yeah, because he lost to Bilal and then got fucking hornswoggled by Sean Brady.
Dominated. One of the two most dominating fights of this year.
Yeah,
absolutely
the second
disgusting.
one happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was nasty work by Mr. Chimaev.
Yeah, that was really bad. That was really bad on behalf of Mr. Duplessis.
Mm-hmm. And that's on everything I love. But I was saying, though, Benoit Saint Denis, he is, as the people say, a marauder. He marches forward. He's killed people. He has aura, whatever, dude. This guy punches slower than molasses, dude. I think
it just clicked. I know who Benoit Saint Denis is. He's the French Sean Strickland.
I don't think he's that boring.
He looks like him, too.
Low-key, they do look like they could be cousins. Honestly, we might say some very controversial stuff in France.
Coneheads.
But
we come from France.
But he's respected, Benoit Saint Denis, by the French people. But I will never forget him getting absolutely mauled by Renato Moicano. I won't forget it. I definitely won't. Renato Moicano is a guy that I believe to be a scammer and just a overall lucky guy, truthfully. Lucky to get his title shot. And Beneil Dariush kind of just showed the world, like, hey, this guy is like a fringe top 15 fighter in this division. I think Mauricio Rufy would beat Renato Moicano, truthfully. I just think he's a scam artist, and I think people like his buzzwords and his fancy lines.
Wasn't the Benoit Saint Denis fight the fight that he said, "Give me Patty Pimlet"? And then immediately after that, he had to face Islam Makhachev.
Mm-hmm. And he got, predictably mauled.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Speaking of predictable
probably got
maulings,
paid, but pretty bad.
Oh, he made bread that night. He made bread. That man was scared though, and I would be too. Honestly, I can't even blame for that.
I wouldn't give a fuck. I'd take that fight on short notice. And give me my $2 million. I'm out.
I was about to say shit. Let me get choked out by Islam Makhachev in 90 seconds, bro. That's all I gotta say about it.
Just let me feel the slightest bit of pressure. You're gonna get it, and I'm going home
and fold. But Benoit Saint Denis, he punches probably slower than Tom Aspinall, and Tom Aspinall, keep in mind, is 110 pounds heavier than Benoit Saint Denis. Benoit Saint Denis should punch faster than him, much faster. But this dude's just slow as molasses. His takedowns are slow. Mauricio Rufy, very good on the ground, very good on the feet. Has finished 11 out of his 12 fights. A lot of people point to the James Lonsop fight and say, well, he didn't win every round to James Lonsop. James Lonsop might have a mythical chin with how much damage he took, with how many strikes that should have got him out of there, but he found a way.
And then he knocked out Malarkey.
Is a knockout artist. I think he's going to get him out of... I think he's going to get BSD out of here in the first 7 minutes of the fight.
That'll move us on to the pinnacle of the event. The main event of the evening. Number 2 ranked Nassourdine Imavov in his motherland facing off against number 7 ranked Kyle Borralho and a Fighting Nerds showdown once more. We have back-to-back Fighting Nerds fights, which is really cool for that team. Nasruddin, coming off of a win in his last fight, facing off against UFC Hall of Famer, for sure, Israel Adesanya. Before that, had a win against Allen. Before that, had a win against Cannonier, and there the cat goes. He has now reopened his beef with the box. All right. Anyways, Imavov coming off of an impressive knockout victory. The natural Borralho coming off of a mutual win against Cannonier. Knocked out my good friend Paul Craig and beat Magomedov earlier in 2023. I disagree with Witt and what we've talked about before the podcast about Borralho being a little bit overhyped. I think Borralho is going to win this fight in pretty convincing fashion. It may be a decision, but if it is, I'm thinking it's a good one for him.
Yeah, I mean, the Fighting Nerds, one thing you can say about them is they always show up. Like, even if they're underestimated or doubted, they do show up. You know, and the people that have been betting on this fight have seen it, because Borralho is now a slight favorite from whenever he started as an underdog, I believe. So the public has been backing him, and it's respectable. But I think Nasruddin Imavov has just went out here and he's done everything he's needed to do, right? You know, this is a battle of who's going to lose to Chimaev next, and, you know, that's really what this is. And I will say Imavov does have the win over Dolidze. 2 finishes over 2 very good fighters, 2 Hall of Famers, and Adesanya and Cannonier. Brendan Allen fight was kind of sketchy, man. Like, as an MMA grappler, Brendan Allen is very, very good, though. You know, he's able to hold down Imavov, and people will point to that, you know, point to the grappling match Borralho and Brendan Allen had earlier this year and say, oh, well, Borralho beat him in a jiu-jitsu grappling match. I'm like, it's much different, man. Like, it's just much different. MMA grappling to just pit style grappling. You know, sometimes for a lot of guys that doesn't really translate over. I haven't seen Borralho grapple a crazy amount. You know, he does have that sub over Michael Olzashik, who is
now his teammate.
And also prone to getting submitted. I don't think he's going to hold down Imavov for this fight. I think Imavov has good takedown defense. This fight's going to take place on the feet. And I just think Imavov is the more technical kickboxer in this one. You know, he's part Russian. He has been very active. But I think he wins this fight 48-47, 49-46. These guys are both tough, very difficult to finish. I mean, Imavov's only been finished once, and it was his first ever pro fight 9 years ago. So I don't think there's a finish from either of these guys. If it is, I'm gonna be very impressed and surprised by it. But I'm gonna take Imavov 48-47, 49-46.
That will conclude this episode's predictions. Like I said, Johnny Walker, the GOAT. Don't ever forget it. As Witt and Joe Rogan would say, people forget, man. Don't forget it again. Ever again. Be sure to check out all of our sponsors. Shank It Golf, W.GG, CowboyRevolution.com. Use code CronyoMedia at checkout at all those places for a percentage off at checkout. Be sure to check us out on Spotify and YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Mr. Barnes here runs our Twitter account nowadays. And we'll have this video up on YouTube hopefully either tomorrow or early Saturday. Either way we spin it, it'll be up for you guys to see. And we won't miss the card predictions that we do on Twitter this week. We missed them last time, but we won't miss them again.
We will be there.
Indeed. As always, we appreciate you guys for watching. Football season is back. People forget, man.
Shout out Jackson Smith and Jigba.
We'll see y'all in the next one.